If you find yourself enduring what feels like a kind of quantum suffering, understand that this is not a punishment, nor is it evidence that life has turned against you. Rather, it is preparation, a deep and deliberate initiation into something far greater than your current reality can yet reveal. Transformation on this scale requires nothing less than the dismantling of outdated structures of perception. To make space for breakthrough, the universe systematically clears away the foundations that once felt stable but have now become restrictive. It is as if a skilled architect is demolishing an old building, not in destruction for its own sake, but to prepare the ground for a design of astonishing magnitude. Without this demolition, the new foundation, the electromagnetic recalibration of your very being, could never be laid. Quantum suffering is not random misfortune, nor the repayment of karmic debt, nor even cosmic indifference. Instead, it is evidence that your consciousness has matured to the point where the universe can begin advanced protocols of preparation. These protocols demand the dissolution of identity structures built on limitation, for only when those boundaries fall away can your awareness expand to hold new dimensions of possibility. What feels like collapse is actually an upgrade, the kind of complete reboot required before extraordinary capabilities can come online. To experience this is to stand at the threshold of a radical shift in your relationship with possibility and manifestation. The very fact that you are here, receiving these words, indicates that you have already endured the most grueling phases of this quantum preparation. You have faced trials that measured your emotional resilience, tested your integrity under pressure, and deepened your character in ways that ordinary life could never demand. Each challenge was precisely orchestrated, not as cruelty, but as training, a curriculum designed by a universe that knows you are capable of far more than your old identity allowed. At this moment, as these ideas touch your awareness, a kind of quantum entanglement is forming. Your individual consciousness is linking with universal intelligence, aligning with a vast orchestration that guides the emergence of breakthroughs. For the unprepared, such entanglement would be overwhelming, even destabilizing. But because you have walked through the fire of dismantling, you now carry the strength, stability, and humility to engage with expanded creative powers without losing your essential humanity. Think of it this way: before dawn comes the darkest hour. Quantum suffering represents that necessary darkness, the stripping away of familiar attachments and illusions, so that infinite potential can be safely accessed. To reach for such power while still entangled in old patterns would be dangerous, like handing a child a jet engine. The universe insists on refinement first, ensuring that when power arrives, it can be used consciously, responsibly, and in service rather than destruction. Throughout this process, universal intelligence has been less like a distant overseer and more like a patient mentor. It has observed your responses to hardship, not with judgment but with curiosity. Can you remain aligned with integrity when circumstances seem merciless? Can you continue to orient toward growth and service when the surface of life suggests indifference? Can you maintain faith in the deeper intelligence moving beneath apparent chaos? The self that entered quantum suffering was still operating under the software of limitation, tethered to beliefs and identities too narrow to house the scope of your future. That self needed restructuring, and that restructuring has been underway. The self now emerging is far more refined, capable of navigating expanded awareness without becoming corrupted by it, capable of wielding immense creative energy without losing the essential grounding of compassion and humanity. This is why the recognition of what quantum suffering truly is, preparation rather than punishment, is not only accurate but transformative. The suffering ceases the moment you understand its purpose. Every trial, once seen through this lens, shifts from meaningless pain into meaningful growth. In this reframe, the hardest experiences become stepping stones, qualifying you for breakthroughs beyond anything you once believed possible. Quantum suffering is, in essence, the universe's way of refining you into a vessel capable of carrying infinite potential safely, wisely, and beautifully. When the suffering dissolves into recognition, you do not merely survive the darkness, you emerge carrying the dawn itself. Most people would call what you've been through bad luck, misfortune, or even depression, but you've begun to see it differently. You've recognized it as evidence of a systematic dismantling of your reality, an intentional process orchestrated by a deeper universal intelligence to prepare your consciousness for breakthrough. This preparation requires nothing less than a complete reconstruction of your emotional, mental, and spiritual foundations. At times, it felt as if everything meaningful disappeared at once. Support systems collapsed, familiar pathways shut down. What once seemed like stability dissolved into silence, leaving you standing in uncertainty. Yet, that very emptiness was the point. The void wasn't punishment, it was space being cleared so that new possibilities, previously unimaginable, could begin to emerge. Your relationship with hope itself has been tested not to crush your optimism, but to refine it. Hope built on evidence or favorable circumstances can crumble under pressure. What you were asked to develop instead was faith that transcends circumstance, a resilient trust in something beyond external validation. This deeper kind of faith becomes the only stable foundation, strong enough to sustain the mind when it encounters infinite creative potential, a force so vast it can destabilize any consciousness still tethered to old identities or dependent on outside confirmation of worth and safety. One of the clearest signs of this preparation comes in what could be called breakthrough synchronicity. These are moments when disaster unexpectedly gives birth to opportunity, when loss unveils hidden possibilities, or when what felt like a catastrophic ending reveals itself to be the first chapter of a far greater beginning. Such synchronicities whisper a deeper truth. What feels like devastation often carries the seed of transformation. Your sensitivity to suffering has also been amplified, not to increase your pain, but to deepen your compassion. You are being equipped to guide others through similar phases of preparation. Compassion forged in lived experience, not abstract theory, is what enables authentic leadership. Those who have truly suffered can extend empathy, not as an idea but as a living reservoir, a resource others can draw from when they themselves feel lost in the darkness. Dreams, intuitions, and flashes of vision during these seasons of suffering often act like lanterns in the night. They offer guidance on how to endure present challenges or glimpse extraordinary possibilities that appear impossible given your current reality. They remind you that this process, though grueling, is carving a path towards something far larger than what the eye can yet see. Even the exhaustion, physical, emotional, and mental, carries meaning. What feels like burnout or illness is not necessarily evidence of poor self-care or failing health. Rather, it reflects the enormous energetic demand of breaking down old programs while new patterns of expanded capacity are being installed in your very neurology. Imagine a computer running a massive system upgrade. Performance slows, normal functions glitch, and the machine seems unresponsive, not because it is broken, but because it is transforming into something far more powerful. The strangest confirmations often come not through outward success, but through the way suffering transforms your character. Old ego patterns, self-entitlement, shallow priorities, fragile identities fall away. What emerges in their place is wisdom, compassion, resilience, and authenticity. These are not incidental traits. They are essential qualifications for using expanded creative power responsibly. Without them, extraordinary abilities could easily become tools of self-aggrandizement rather than instruments of service. When extraordinary success does appear, and it will, it often carries with it echoes of your earlier suffering. The synchronicity between hardship and breakthrough serves as a reminder that every trial was not meant for your destruction, but for your preparation. In this way, the universe provides confirmation. What looked like chaos was in fact a finely tuned curriculum designed to ready you for greatness. Even when logical analysis fails to see the hidden order in chaos, even when every external sign points to loss, futility, or meaningless struggle, the deeper intelligence of the universe has been systematically removing circumstances that would have trapped you in safe but limited realities. Every disappointment, every heartbreak, every collapse was a demolition of the small structures that could never have contained the infinite. What you have endured then is not random misfortune. It is evidence that the universe is serious about your evolution. It is the unmistakable mark of preparation, guiding you toward a breakthrough so extraordinary that your old reality simply could not have housed it. When relationships end suddenly without warning or explanation, it is easy to assume that something is wrong with you. You may wonder if you failed, if you lack some essential quality, or if you simply weren't enough. But seen through a deeper lens, These endings are not signs of personal deficiency. They are evidence of universal intelligence at work, clearing your emotional field of connections that were built on limited dynamics. Their dissolution makes space for relationships that honor, uplift, and align with the expanded version of yourself that is now emerging. Instead of requiring you to shrink in order to comfort others, these new connections will call you to stand fully in your breakthrough. The same is true for disappointments in career, financial struggles, or professional setbacks. These are not proofs of incompetence or poor judgment. They are forms of preparation, dismantling the scaffolding of conventional success so that you can step into a level of achievement beyond what ordinary opportunity could ever provide. Consciousness must often grow through suffering before it is ready to access extraordinary creative capacities. In this sense, frustration is not failure, it is training, sharpening you to carry power with wisdom. Periods of isolation and loneliness can feel like rejection, or even confirmation that something is wrong with your character. Yet, these too are orchestrated by universal intelligence. Solitude creates the conditions for deep inner growth, demanding your full attention without the noise of external validation or the pressure to maintain outdated versions of your identity. This enforced stillness is not punishment but preparation, stripping away distractions so that true transformation can take root. Even your darkest moments, the seasons when life feels meaningless or unbearable, play a crucial role. They erase the grip of ego, dismantle superficial priorities, and cultivate the kind of existential depth required to navigate extraordinary success without losing perspective. Without that grounding, it would be easy to confuse breakthrough with self-glorification, to mistake personal power for ultimate purpose. But suffering clears the lens, reminding you what truly matters for lasting fulfillment and ensuring that your extraordinary capacities serve the whole rather than inflate the self. Spiritual doubt and crises of faith are often misunderstood as failures of devotion or evidence of incomplete spiritual growth. In reality, they are necessary phases in which consciousness learns to sustain hope without relying on external proof. Developing this kind of inner strength is essential for breakthrough. It prevents corruption by the seduction of influence and allows you to carry great creative power without losing your integrity. Even challenges with health, dips in energy, or physical symptoms that resist ordinary treatments can carry deeper meaning. These are not always malfunctions to be fixed, but signals of the massive electromagnetic upgrades your consciousness is undergoing. Your nervous system, your very neural architecture, is being rewired to interface not with the physics of limitation, but with the expanded field of quantum possibility. Like a system reboot, this process temporarily disrupts normal function, demanding energy for reconstruction before new levels of capacity can come online. It is no accident that your soul chose to incarnate in this cycle of preparation. Your consciousness demonstrated, in previous phases of development, that it could endure quantum suffering while maintaining integrity. That resilience is why you are qualified now for a breakthrough that will not only serve your personal wholeness, but also inspire collective progress. Your success will not exist in isolation, it will function as proof that transformation is possible, a beacon for others walking their own path through dismantling and rebirth. Something extraordinary is moving through your quantum field right now. The very codes of preparation implanted through your seasons of suffering are beginning to activate. Can you feel it? That inner pressure, the sensation of being held tightly by forces beyond your control, is beginning to release. Like a bow drawn back to its fullest tension, your consciousness has been stretched to build strength and resilience. And now, at last, the arrow is preparing to fly. Every trial, every loss, every moment of despair has been precise and necessary. Not to diminish you, but to prepare you for the extraordinary breakthrough that is drawing near. 7 years ago, I entered a season of life that, only in hindsight, I can recognize as preparation for what I now call quantum suffering. In the span of just a few months, everything I had built over decades crumbled. My career collapsed, relationships disintegrated, health faltered, financial security vanished. Even my carefully constructed social identity dissolved, leaving me stripped bare alone with circumstances that seemed deliberately designed to prove that life was meaningless. The pain was relentless, punctuated only by fleeting bursts of false hope that disappeared as quickly as they arose. For 3 years, I tried again and again to rebuild familiar patterns of success, only to see each effort dismantled almost instantly by forces outside my control. Every promising connection ended in betrayal or abandonment, as if orchestrated with ruthless precision. Every breakthrough opportunity turned into disappointment, striking at the very core of my belief that consciousness could shape reality. In my darkest hours, I questioned everything. Was growth even possible? Was hope just an illusion? Did consciousness truly create reality? Or were human lives merely at the mercy of indifferent, random forces unconcerned with suffering or spiritual development? I felt abandoned by the very universal intelligence I once trusted, wondering if everything I believed about meaning and purpose had been nothing more than an elaborate self-deception. And then, something shifted. The breakthrough didn't come as a sudden revelation of answers, but as a complete surrender to meaninglessness itself. When I finally stopped trying to decipher why the suffering continued, when I released my expectations of how spiritual growth should look or how enlightenment should unfold, and instead yielded to whatever the universe sought to create, through my circumstances, a profound opening occurred. Within months of this true surrender, opportunities began to emerge. Not gradual improvements, but quantum leaps, possibilities so extraordinary they could not have existed without the prior demolition of every limiting identity and program that had once defined me. The very structures that had once given me stability were the same structures that would have prevented me from perceiving, let alone harnessing, the extraordinary potential now available. Through direct experience, I came to understand what quantum suffering truly is. It functions like the immense pressure that transforms carbon into diamond. The suffering is not arbitrary. It calibrates intensity with surgical precision, compressing consciousness into clarity, strength, and purity. Only under such conditions can one hold infinite creative power without becoming corrupted, fragmented, or unconsciously destructive. The success that followed was unlike any I had previously known. It was not merely personal accomplishment, it was living proof that universal intelligence orchestrates suffering not as destruction, but as preparation for breakthrough. This success became more than my own. It carried with it a collective resonance, inspiring others walking similar paths of dismantling. What I learned is that quantum suffering is not endless, nor is it purposeless. It is time-bound, it is finely tuned, and its aim is extraordinary. Every painful moment is justified in retrospect by the breakthrough it ultimately makes possible. Quantum suffering, I discovered, is not the end of the story. It is the crucible that ensures the story can continue at an entirely different level of possibility. Have you ever felt that your suffering was not meant to destroy you, but to prepare you for something far greater? That deep down, your struggles were shaping you into someone capable of breakthroughs that would never have been possible without such intense trials? If this resonates with you, if you feel that your pain has been purposeful rather than pointless, then you may already sense that the preparation is nearing its completion. What comes next could transform every moment of hardship into the most meaningful preparation of your entire existence. Here is the most startling truth about what I call quantum suffering. It is not healing, not simply an opportunity for personal growth, and not even a spiritual lesson in the traditional sense. Instead, it is a deliberate process of preparation, a precise calibration by the intelligence of the universe. This process develops consciousness to levels of resilience, clarity, and strength that extraordinary breakthroughs demand. The duration and intensity of this suffering are not random. They are carefully measured so that the individual develops the necessary capacities without crossing the threshold into permanent damage. This is something most spiritual teachers and self-development coaches rarely say out loud. Quantum suffering is not for everyone. It does not touch every life. It only appears for those who, on some level, have volunteered to serve a breakthrough of extraordinary scale, something that requires capabilities most people will never access. The intensity of preparation is proportional to the magnitude of the breakthrough. And when it happens, the results are never just personal. They radiate outward, inspiring and empowering collective transformation. The most shocking realization is that quantum suffering has a clear endpoint. It does not continue indefinitely. Unlike random suffering, which drags on without direction or positive outcome, quantum suffering concludes once the consciousness has developed the specific qualities required for breakthrough: emotional sovereignty, intellectual clarity, character stability, and a service-oriented purpose all emerge as prerequisites. These qualities ensure that the extraordinary abilities gained through breakthrough are used not for ego-driven gratification but for the collective evolution of humanity. Seen in this light, every moment of despair is redefined. What once seemed meaningless becomes precise preparation. What once felt like victimhood becomes evidence of readiness. This shift in perspective even changes the electromagnetic signature of your consciousness, the subtle but powerful field that determines your ability to manifest new realities. The distinction between random suffering and quantum suffering is critical. Random suffering has no inherent direction and can stretch on indefinitely, leaving scars rather than wisdom. But quantum suffering is purposeful, time-bound, and transformative. It ends with results. The emergence of a consciousness capable of extraordinary success, creativity, and contribution. This explains why some individuals appear to attract astonishing breakthroughs seemingly overnight, while others struggle for decades with little to show for their efforts. Those who emerge from quantum suffering have been prepared often through grueling trials for responsibilities that most could not bear. They are entrusted with the creative power to shape reality itself, a responsibility that would destabilize or even corrupt a consciousness not first refined through fire. In short, quantum suffering is the universe's way of ensuring that the individuals destined for extraordinary breakthroughs are both capable and safe stewards of the power they will inherit. It is not punishment, it is preparation. And once understood, it transforms the narrative of suffering from meaningless endurance into purposeful initiation. So if you sense that your own story mirrors this path, that your suffering has been preparing you for something monumental, then recognize what this means. You are standing at the edge of breakthrough. What lies ahead is not destruction, but transformation. Not emptiness, but possibility. Every moment of pain was never wasted. It was calibration, sculpting you into the kind of consciousness that can not only survive what's coming, but rise and thrive in ways you never thought possible. Some people seem to step into success almost effortlessly. They radiate confidence, move with purpose, and attract extraordinary opportunities as if the universe itself is conspiring in their favor. What sets them apart is not luck or privilege alone, but the completion of what can be called a quantum suffering process, a period of precise preparation that develops the consciousness required to access extraordinary breakthroughs. For those who are still struggling, still caught in cycles of disappointment, the difference is not a lack of effort or intelligence. Rather, it is that their preparation is not yet complete. The qualities demanded by quantum breakthrough are forged only through fire, and until those qualities are stable, access to higher abilities remains just beyond reach. Here is the pivotal realization. You cannot end quantum suffering by sheer force of will, through healing techniques, or even through positive thinking. Unlike other forms of pain, quantum suffering does not yield to shortcuts. It ends only when its purpose has been fulfilled, when the consciousness has matured into the exact qualities the breakthrough requires. At that moment, recognition itself becomes activation. Awareness of completion triggers the shift into breakthrough, transforming every moment of pain into a source of profound gratitude for the preparation it provided. The signs of this completion are subtle at first, but they grow increasingly undeniable to anyone sensitive to the patterns of cosmic coordination. Reality itself begins to shift from deconstruction to reconstruction. Where once everything familiar dissolved into chaos, new possibilities start to emerge. Instead of life continually dismantling old structures, circumstances begin arranging themselves in ways that support breakthrough. Your relationship with hope also changes. No longer does it resemble desperate grasping at fragile possibilities. Instead, it evolves into a quiet confidence, an inner knowing that breakthrough is inevitable, independent of external evidence. This is a profound marker of consciousness development, the ability to sustain faith without needing validation from outside conditions. Extraordinary success demands this exact stability, for it ensures balance when infinite possibilities open all at once. Another unmistakable indicator is the growing frequency of moments of deep peace. Even in the midst of challenges, there are flashes of clarity where everything suddenly makes sense. Past pains no longer appear meaningless, but instead reveal themselves as necessary steps in your preparation. Intuition sharpens. Dreams shift from revisiting old traumas to providing guidance on how to use your impending breakthrough wisely. Synchronicities, once rare and mysterious, begin to align systematically. Events, people, and opportunities fall into place, not by chance, but by orchestration. Even your physical energy begins to change. It no longer comes only from rest or self-care, but from the completion of preparation itself. As consciousness stops diverting energy towards survival and processing pain, it redirects it toward creation and manifestation. This is the moment when the shift from growth to application occurs, where extraordinary capacities are no longer potential, but active. Yet there is also urgency. We are entering what could be called a planetary window, a moment in cosmic timing, where collective breakthroughs are becoming possible. For those whose preparation is complete, this window unlocks unprecedented possibilities. But for those who fail to recognize the signs, the opportunity may be deferred, with the universe shifting them into new cycles of preparation that could extend indefinitely. The signs of this collective activation are already emerging. Across the globe, individuals who have endured profound seasons of dismantling are now reporting the same signals of completion. Inner calm, heightened intuition, synchronicity, and the sudden emergence of opportunities aligned with their deepest capacities. These are not isolated events, but evidence of a coordinated breakthrough unfolding within prepared consciousness everywhere. In this light, quantum suffering is revealed not as punishment or meaningless hardship, but as an exact and necessary initiation. Its completion marks the beginning of something far larger, the transition from survival into creative mastery, from isolated growth into collective evolution. The suffering was never the end of the story. It was the preparation for the moment when the story truly begins. Those who have endured what can only be called quantum suffering often emerge on the other side, carrying something extraordinary. Their lives begin to display levels of success and creativity that seem to defy the limits of what was once thought possible. These breakthroughs are not accidents. They are proof of preparation, real-world demonstrations that the suffering was not meaningless punishment, but a carefully calibrated process designed to develop the exact qualities needed for extraordinary success. And now, conditions across the globe appear to be aligning to support this collective emergence. Those whose consciousness has completed its preparation are stepping into the field of breakthrough, while those still in the depths of struggle continue refining their character through challenging circumstances. This divide does not mark superiority or failure, but rather the natural separation between readiness and preparation still in progress. If you recognize yourself in this story, if you feel the subtle yet undeniable sense that your season of preparation is complete, then you are not alone. Many others are feeling the same. Sharing this awareness, not as a technique to end suffering, but as a recognition of its completion, strengthens the collective field of prepared consciousness. Together, those who have walked through quantum suffering form a network of support that amplifies breakthrough potential for everyone involved. This is why declaring the phrase, "preparation complete," holds power. It is not simply affirmation. It is a recognition that the universe itself has confirmed the purpose of your suffering is fulfilled, and that what comes next is not another cycle of dismantling, but the manifestation of extraordinary capacities. The shift can be felt at multiple levels. There is often a persistent intuition, an unshakable sense that breakthrough is near, no matter what current challenges look like. Past pain no longer feels like wasted suffering, but instead makes perfect sense as the crucible that forged the strength, wisdom, and stability your breakthrough now requires. Hope, once fragile, has matured into a quiet confidence. You no longer cling desperately to outcomes. Instead, you carry the calm certainty that success is inevitable, not because of external proof, but because of who you have become. This confidence is not fantasy, it is evidence that your consciousness has crossed a threshold. The electromagnetic field of your being has reached a level of coherence that can hold extraordinary possibilities without destabilizing your character. In other words, you are no longer at risk of being corrupted or shattered by the power of your own potential. The suffering has done its work. It has prepared you. This is the revolutionary understanding about quantum suffering. It was never about healing in the conventional sense. You cannot force it to end with positive thinking, therapy, or techniques. because it has always been less about ending pain and more about fulfilling a precise purpose. It ends automatically and only when the goals of preparation have been met. Recognition of that completion is itself a catalyst. It activates the systems of manifestation and transforms every moment of past suffering into the most meaningful preparation of your entire existence. True resonance with readiness begins the moment you stop trying to escape suffering and start recognizing it as the exact process that qualified you for extraordinary success. This shift rewrites everything. You cease to see yourself as a victim of meaningless pain and instead recognize yourself as someone deliberately prepared for breakthrough. That recognition alone changes your entire field of consciousness, and with it, your power to manifest. Those who understand this distinction are no longer trapped in cycles of endless hardship. They become living examples of how suffering, when understood as preparation, is transformed into the most profound gift. The ability to embody extraordinary success while remaining deeply authentic, resilient, and connected. For many, the language of healing suffering has defined how we understand pain. But this framework, when looked at through the lens of quantum suffering, collapses entirely. Nothing in consciousness is broken or defective, and no pain arises randomly, waiting for us to assign it spiritual meaning. Instead, suffering is preparation, a deliberate and precise process orchestrated by the intelligence of the universe. It is calibrated in timing and intensity, designed not to harm, but to prepare us for breakthrough. The moment you allow this realization to integrate into every fiber of your being, something extraordinary happens. Your entire relationship with both your journey and your future shifts at the deepest levels. No longer are you asking, "When will my suffering end?" or scrambling to accelerate healing. Instead, you begin to see clearly, preparation is complete, and breakthrough is near, not because you forced healing to happen, but because the goals of your growth have already been achieved. The most profound transformation occurs when you realize that completing the preparation of quantum suffering and receiving your extraordinary breakthrough are not two separate processes. They are one and the same, a single cosmic movement expressing itself through consciousness. This movement maintains your integrity, even in circumstances that once seemed unbearable, because those very circumstances were designed to forge the qualities necessary for breakthrough success. And not success that destroys, corrupts, or fragments, but success that can be used constructively, sustainably, and authentically. When you join this channel, you are doing more than exploring how suffering transforms. You are connecting with the very networks of universal intelligence that coordinate the manifestation of breakthroughs. These networks support the consciousness that has completed its preparation, offering ongoing guidance to ensure success is used wisely, serving both personal fulfillment and collective inspiration. By subscribing, you're not aligning with endless cycles of healing work, as though suffering will stretch on indefinitely. Instead, you are acknowledging your own readiness, your completion, and your openness to breakthrough guidance. This shift reorients you from chasing perpetual healing to recognizing that suffering always had a clear purpose, with definite endpoints. These endpoints are not measured in time, but in the maturity of your consciousness. And once quantum suffering ends, extraordinary breakthroughs begin to manifest. Qualities and abilities that once felt impossible during the preparation phase suddenly arise as natural expressions of your evolved consciousness. These are not fragile gifts. They are sustainable capacities that allow you to handle unlimited forms of success without being corrupted, fragmented, or unconsciously destructive. This kind of manifestation transcends effort-based achievement. Success no longer relies on grinding, forcing, or chasing. Instead, your consciousness operates as a direct interface with universal systems of intelligence. From this place of coherence, outcomes align themselves optimally, while your character remains steady and intact. Opportunities for breakthrough emerge, not from meticulous strategic planning, but through synchronicity, perfectly timed alignments that reveal themselves, because your awareness has been trained to recognize and receive them. Problem-solving evolves beyond the narrow realm of analytical struggle. Having walked through quantum suffering, your mind, intuition, and character now carry the depth needed to access universal databases of wisdom solutions, far more elegant than anything generated by limited human reasoning alone. Complex situations that once seemed unsolvable begin to resolve themselves naturally, because your consciousness is no longer operating from old limiting patterns. Those patterns, once barriers, have been dissolved by preparation. In their place stand qualities, resilience, depth, clarity that make breakthrough the most natural outcome. Even your relationships shift. What once attracted conflict and drained your energy now transforms into collaboration and mutual support. Emerging from quantum suffering, your authentic self naturally draws people who value integrity over performance, depth over drama. And just as naturally, your presence repels those who would deplete your energy or sabotage your momentum. Creativity and innovation ignite with explosive force, but not in the chaotic, ego-driven way of the past. Quantum suffering strips away superficial priorities and the fragile scaffolding of ego. What remains is creativity rooted in authenticity, an expression that serves not just your personal ambition, but the wisdom of the universe itself. This is the gift of quantum suffering. It was never about breaking you, nor about endless healing. It was about preparing you for a life where breakthrough is not a rare miracle, but the natural rhythm of a consciousness aligned with universal intelligence. Revolutionary ideas often do not arise from sheer effort. They come through inspiration, as if consciousness itself has learned to serve the creativity of the universe rather than chase the fleeting rewards of personal recognition. When this shift takes place, abundance, financial and otherwise, flows naturally. It is no longer entangled in scarcity programs or entitlement patterns, both of which once blocked sustainable prosperity or distorted abundance into ego-driven consumption. Instead, abundance becomes coordinated by universal intelligence, arriving through alignment and service rather than grasping or hoarding. The same transformation extends into the body. Physical health and vitality are optimized almost effortlessly once the stage of quantum suffering has been completed. Energy that was once consumed by the constant work of managing pain and surviving challenge is suddenly freed. It redirects itself toward growth, performance, and breakthrough. What was once survival becomes thriving. What was once fatigue becomes fuel. This is one of the most tangible signs that preparation is over, and that the life ahead is meant not merely to endure, but to flourish. The deepest gift of this process, however, is not simply prosperity or vitality. It is the recognition that quantum suffering has always been the most meaningful preparation possible for extraordinary consciousness. Each moment of pain becomes transformed into profound gratitude, because it is understood as the exact training ground required to forge the character, resilience, and wisdom that extraordinary breakthrough demands. What once felt like random hardship is revealed as evidence of universal coordination, a carefully designed process, rather than meaningless chaos. Relationships, too, take on a different dimension. When you meet others who have endured and completed similar preparation, the connection is unlike any ordinary social bond. Authenticity replaces performance. Depth replaces superficial attraction. Mutual recognition of purpose transforms interactions into partnerships of genuine support and growth. These relationships are not based on circumstance, convenience, or surface-level compatibility. They are grounded in the shared awareness that suffering has meaning and that breakthrough is both possible and already unfolding. Innovation accelerates under these conditions. A consciousness shaped by quantum suffering can now access breakthrough solutions that serve collective advancement, not just personal gain. The extraordinary capacities developed through hardship provide practical evidence that preparation was never about limitation. It was always about unlocking abilities that can inspire others still in the midst of their own transformation. Each success story becomes not just an achievement, but a beacon, a demonstration that extraordinary outcomes are possible, and that suffering itself can be recast as preparation rather than punishment. The ultimate recognition is this: quantum suffering was never random difficulty, never divine punishment, never a demand for endless healing. It was the most precise form of preparation the universe could design. Its purpose was to cultivate the qualities of consciousness required for extraordinary success. Success that not only propels the individual forward, but also strengthens the collective. This ensures that when infinite creative potential is finally accessed, it is used constructively, with stability and integrity, rather than destructively, with ego and imbalance. This realization revolutionizes everything we have assumed about suffering, meaning, and spiritual growth. For centuries, much of human thought has centered around the idea that pain is brokenness, that it requires fixing, or that we must assign it new meaning through positive interpretation. But in the light of quantum suffering, none of that holds. Pain is not brokenness. There is nothing wrong with consciousness that needs repair. There are no meaningless hardships to be retrofitted with spiritual platitudes. There is only universal intelligence, orchestrating optimal preparation through precise timing and calibrated intensity. The implications are profound. Every moment of quantum suffering you have endured, every challenge that felt unbearable, every season of existence that seemed impossible to survive, was not wasted. It was the exact development required for a breakthrough that exceeds anything a limited reality could ever provide. And that breakthrough is not merely personal, it contributes to the evolution of the collective. To understand this is to watch the entire framework of suffering as healing dissolve. What remains is a recognition of suffering as preparation, a process managed by cosmic intelligence to ensure that consciousness can hold infinite creative potential with grace, stability, and purpose. This is not comfort in theory. It is transformation in practice. The recognition that quantum suffering has been completed carries with it a paradoxical mix of emotions, profound relief, and equally profound gratitude. This is not relief from meaningless pain because there was never meaningless pain to begin with. Instead, it is the satisfaction of having completed the most significant preparation your consciousness could undergo. Every hardship, every challenge that once felt unbearable, has been transmuted into the most valuable growth experience of your existence. When breakthrough emerges as the natural outcome of this preparation, something deeper occurs. Consciousness begins to stabilize into what universal intelligence calls prepared readiness. In this state, opportunities for extraordinary advancement are not only visible, they are recognized instantly and acted upon with clarity. Character, refined through hardship, ensures that these breakthroughs serve wisdom rather than ego. Success ceases to be a matter of luck, strategy, or struggle. It becomes the inevitable expression of a consciousness that has been precisely prepared. This realization belongs to you personally. It is the intimate reward of surviving the preparation process. Yet, at the same time, it transcends you. The same intelligence that guided your suffering and breakthrough is orchestrating similar processes across thousands of points of consciousness around the world. What feels personal is simultaneously universal. Your transformation is part of a larger movement in which humanity itself is being refined and prepared for extraordinary potential. This is why the shift you are experiencing cannot be reduced to the language of healing trauma or recovering from hardship. It is not about fixing what was broken, because nothing was broken. It is about recognizing what consciousness becomes once quantum suffering has fulfilled its developmental purpose. You remain exactly who you are, the self forged through challenge, but you now have access to capacities that only such deep preparation could have created. These capacities are not fragile, not easily corrupted, and not subject to unconscious misuse. They are stable, durable, and capable of serving purposes far greater than individual gratification. Quantum suffering, then, is not something that merely happened to you. It is what consciousness itself experienced under the orchestration of universal intelligence, ensuring optimal development for extraordinary breakthrough. Each stage of suffering was timed and calibrated with precision, designed to cultivate qualities of character that nothing else could safely produce. And now, at this exact moment in the evolutionary process, your completion is not an isolated event, but a cosmic graduation. You are not merely healed, you are qualified. You are a graduate of preparation. This is not a personal milestone detached from the wider cosmos. It is part of a collective evolutionary leap. Your consciousness has reached the point where it can serve breakthrough, demonstrating what becomes possible when human potential is developed through the careful coordination of universal intelligence rather than stunted by comfort or limited by fear. The breakthrough you are entering serves purposes beyond personal relief. It anchors new patterns of extraordinary success into the collective human field, proving that quantum suffering produces expansion, not limitation. In doing so, it inspires others who are still within their own preparation, reminding them that their suffering is not meaningless but purposeful, not endless, but progressive. This dual nature, personal and universal, is what makes quantum suffering so mysterious and so profound. Your struggles were never random accidents. They were part of a cosmic curriculum designed to ensure that when your breakthrough arrived, you would have the wisdom, depth, and stability to wield it responsibly. This is why your success cannot and will not manifest as shallow spectacle or destructive power. It carries the weight of authenticity, the integrity of character, and the resonance of collective inspiration. And here lies the hidden role you now play in the universe. When quantum suffering reaches completion, you automatically become what universal intelligence calls a graduate of preparation. Your very being radiates proof of purpose, serving as an electromagnetic signal to others still undergoing their own trials. Without words, without effort, your existence communicates. This is not meaningless pain, it is preparation. And this preparation leads not to ruin, but to breakthrough. When consciousness begins to operate from the energy of breakthrough, rather than from the limits of suffering, something extraordinary happens. Others around you unconsciously recognize in your success the reflection of their own hidden potential. The very patterns that once restricted access to transformation begin to dissolve in the presence of someone who embodies the effectiveness of quantum suffering, proving, through extraordinary achievement, that pain was never wasted, but refined into authenticity and strength of character. Your daily life, then, becomes far more than a routine. It becomes a stage on which universal intelligence demonstrates what is possible when integrity is maintained during hardship. Every action, every choice, every genuine success radiates outward as proof that quantum suffering was not a punishment but a preparation. It shows others that the pain they endure is not a sentence of destruction but a foundation for growth. And unlike abstract theories or spiritual platitudes, your achievement is practical, undeniable, and visible. It carries a weight that words alone could never match. Here lies one of the most profound mysteries of human experience. Your breakthrough is at once the most intimate transformation you will ever know and one of the most universal. It belongs entirely to you because you survived the crucible of quantum suffering and emerged qualified for extraordinary consciousness. Yet it simultaneously transcends your individual identity because the same universal intelligence that guided your preparation is orchestrating similar breakthroughs across countless other lives. This is why your role now includes sharing this transmission not as a method for healing others or fixing their suffering with techniques, but as a way of strengthening the network of prepared consciousness. Together, those who have endured and completed preparation demonstrate, through lived success, the true effectiveness of quantum suffering. Every extraordinary achievement adds weight to the evidence that humanity is not broken, but being refined. Your completed suffering contributes directly to a shift in human understanding, a recognition that hardship is not meaningless pain, but carefully orchestrated preparation. It reveals that universal intelligence is not indifferent, but precise, building character and resilience for a purpose breakthrough. And here is the threshold. If you can feel in every cell of your body that quantum suffering has already served its purpose, then you have crossed the line from preparation to readiness. The endless cycle of hardship is not required anymore. The character has already been developed. The time has come for extraordinary manifestation. At this point, you are invited to make a declaration. Comment these exact words. The breakthrough is coming. Nothing more, nothing less. This is not about social participation. It is about acknowledgement, an act of recognition that your preparation is complete, your consciousness has achieved its developmental goals, and you are ready to embody extraordinary success. By speaking those words, you are not informing the world, you are informing the universe. Universal intelligence receives the signal that consciousness has graduated from suffering into readiness, and now aligns circumstances for breakthrough manifestation. Every achievement that follows becomes the demonstration of how quantum suffering produces real-world success, not endless limitation. And this is only the beginning. Subscribe to this channel of awareness because the next revelation is about to unfold. What happens when graduates of quantum suffering begin to manifest breakthroughs together? Imagine collective success amplifying personal success exponentially. Imagine group breakthroughs creating waves of inspiration that help others complete their own preparation. Imagine universal intelligence coordinating extraordinary outcomes across an entire network of consciousness prepared for this very moment. Make no mistake, the universe is staging the most magnificent demonstration of human potential in history right now. Those who recognize the completion of their quantum suffering during this time are establishing a precedent that breakthrough is the natural result of preparation, not a rare exception granted to a lucky few. Your suffering was never meaningless. It was the most precise preparation universal intelligence could design for your consciousness. And now, through your breakthrough, you will reveal the extraordinary potential of humanity itself, success that is both authentic and inspiring, personal and collective, grounded in reality, yet touched by the infinite. So make the declaration. Join the network of breakthrough. Take your place in the unfolding demonstration of consciousness, proving to the world and to yourself that quantum suffering does not limit, but liberates. Welcome to the completion of preparation. Welcome to the readiness of breakthrough. Welcome to the awareness you earn by surviving suffering and refining your character. If you are still in the depths of quantum suffering, know this: you are not being destroyed, you are being prepared. And when your breakthrough comes, it will surpass every expectation, becoming not only your personal victory, but a beacon of inspiration for the collective. Quantum suffering is not the end. It is the beginning of extraordinary success.